We're not talking about it.
Yes, we are.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boys, PD and Kyle. This is going to be a very good and clean discussion about the need and the desire for Spider-Man art to sell millions and millions of dollars, be his number one film in the world, breaking $2 billion.
Wow.
You know, recently Spider-Man just
Wow.
showed the black. Can you please show the image a bit, PD? The black original art for the black
Sorry,
for
ad always popping
the,
up.
for the black uniform Spider-Man went for 3.36 million at Heritage Auction, which of course with the success of the movie only makes 100%
Oh
sense.
my
With the success
gosh.
of Venom, makes 100% sense. People are loving this stuff, and there's really nothing else for us to say other than 100%
I
supporting it.
guess I guess he's right. Spin rack out, right?
Okay, so what's next?
Look at this.
So
This
what? So I'll ask you a question. Do you guys agree that do you believe that Mac Zek actually was not the seller of this?
why would he be the seller? It's been years since he sold this stuff.
He wouldn't have kept on to something in the portfolio after all these years, like have a B
He
version.
was so unhappy on that book. He's probably offering up those like you can see it on this page. Like, oh, hopefully it doesn't. Here we go. Look at this page, right?
Yeah.
You got the art corrections on the bottom over here, and large head, meaning the head here, and then he complains about Thor's hammer, which is art corrected. But then all these faces have changed. None of these faces are Mike Zeck faces, right?
Get out.
So this is Mike Zeck's drawing, right? And the other thing is like one of the things you see these two panels, there's no like they don't want anything cut off. Like this is the big reveal for a shooter book. Oh, come on, stop acting up. There we go. So for this sort of thing, it's you can see he's worrying about shooter correcting it, and you already see more corrections on there. So it's I mean for Zek, I mean, maybe this is like because it's a cool position to get Spider-Man in to like what is this like 60% of the or like 55% of the page or something like that. Maybe more than that. Maybe it's like 65% of the page, and he's sort of not really crouching, but sort of spread apart like there, like almost like a sumo type of deal. But you get him all into the panel, so it's a cool shot of Spider-Man. But then it's like you still got the editor in chief coming in there, and the book was falling behind because of the art corrections. But this guy's a pro. He's got he trained under what's it? I think Wally Wood towards the end of his life. He did Master of Kung Fu. He did Captain America for a number of years, and then he gets with the editor in chief, and then everything is wrong. The whole thing needs
Well,
art
should have had
correction.
his own. Should have had his own point of view. So come on, let's not. And he made like one of the most successful comic book series out there. So come on, let's not even go there. Okay.
Because it had everybody in it.
But my question is, why would you not hold on to the page? This is the first time in Spider-Man's Spider-Man started 1960, 1965. Why would you not think this is the very fact that this character he changed the color of his uniform would be something huge? Why wouldn't you hold on to that?
I think he lost the original design. I think he sent it in. He sent it into Marvel, and then I think Rick Leonardi. They lost the design, of course. Well, actually, there's another design that who was it that the idea from this came from a kid, and Shooter bought the design for like $150 or something like that. I don't
Get
think
out.
it's much more than $100 or something like that. But then, of course, they had to redo it. So I think Zek said he sent it in, but at the same time, for some reason, it's lost. So if you see, and I think it's issue, the second issue that it appears. I think it's Amazing Spider-Man 253. They have designs by Rick Leonardi, but those are the ones just done in the office to replace the ones that Zek did. So Zek is the one who designed it. So actually, the original design should be the thing that skyrockets, but then somehow where Zek drew this maybe months after it actually appeared. Like the first appearance was well before he drew this shot. But for some reason, it's selling for 3 mil.
Yeah, it's well worth it. All the money is good. So,
He's
Cal, question for you: Is this selling because it's also the first? Is considered the first appearance of Venom, also, or just simply Spider-Man in the black costume?
I'm
it's
sorry.
all of it. So sorry, you go, Cal.
No, was that for me or was that for you?
You can take it.
For
Take
you,
it.
Cal.
What was it? Yeah, say the question again. I'm sorry.
I said, is it selling so well because it's the first appearance of Spider-Man in the black costume and the first appearance of what Venom will become?
Yes, yes, and for like three or four other different reasons too. I mean, you have a situation where this is a first appearance. It's one of a kind. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man in his black suit, the same black suit that's going to become Venom. You have a $2 billion Spider-Man movie, which is unheard of. A lot of a lot of stuff popping off of Spider-Man right now. The belief that Venom is somehow going to transition into the quote unquote Marvel universe as opposed to just existing in the Sony universe. So you have all these different things just driving it right now, and the wherewithal to make a big splash and purchase it.
Right. But I mean, Venom didn't actually come out till much later. I mean, the actual character is a different entity, is a symbiote. What
It doesn't
he
matter.
like 300. So this is considered the first official, not
That's the
like
first. That's not even considered the first. That's considered the origin of the symbiote. That's like the official tagline for that. That's the origin of the symbiote. And I mean, it just doesn't matter. I mean, you have books now where there was just two hands in the book. And then you go back and, oh, that's the first appearance of Eddie Brock. You're like, huh? How did that happen? Oh, well, those two hands, that was Eddie Brock pushing Spider-Man, trying to push Spider-Man on the tracks. And that becomes a cameo appearance, and Eddie Brock doesn't appear until a lot later. So that's just how it works, unfortunately, with a lot of the stuff that comes down. Well, let me not say unfortunately, but that's just the way things can work in comics especially when you're driving for appearances, because there's a lot of stuff that okay, this appeared here, and then later on it becomes a big hit, and everybody's going after it. And this was pretty much just a throwaway book for the longest period of time. Not necessarily this book, okay, but the idea of it could be just a casual appearance, and the next thing you know, the character takes off, and hey, there you go.
I thought when this came out, everybody was buying it. So I don't know if it was casual. The very fact that you had him in uniform, everybody was like, "Wow, that's a huge thing," right?
No, no,
I
a
do.
lot of guys
I
didn't
had it.
know. A lot of guys did not like that new outfit. They did not. That's one of the reasons why I think he was in that black outfit for about 7 months,
Yeah, that is
maybe
true.
8, and then they put him right back in the red and blue because they had such an outcry of no, 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 put him back in the in his real outfit. And I was one of the people who liked the new outfit because I thought, well, that definitely looks more like a spider than the red and blue. But the guys, they made a big deal out of it too. He's back. And then even in the issue, they were like, hey, we even put the webbing back underneath the arms. You haven't seen that in a while, have you? So this is the real outfit. Okay, and
Well,
then they made it so what is it? They did that Web of Spider-Man issue where they finally got rid of it, and it was gone. We never knew if we would see it again.
Right.
well, they were only supposed to use it for 2 issues, and they had, as Cal said, a lot of negative thing of people writing in and complaining and seeing pros. But once they saw the numbers, they said to keep the outfit for a little bit longer, which they got up to, I think it's like 258. But then they didn't actually go away. It was still there in the gang war, the whole a little before they actually get rid of it. He has it during the Craven's Last Hunt. That's right before Todd McFarlane comes on, and the Venom thing, like it is everything what Cal said, even worse than that, because Eddie Brock's first appearance, the writer was planning for it to be female, and it was just a person who could get around Spider-Man spider sense. It wasn't even thought of the costume, and that came much later. So it's a thing where it is. I mean, I will agree with Mars on the actual issue, because I think I dropped out of Secret Wars after, well, I stopped understanding it after I think issue 5 or something like that. And then around issue 8, that's when people I think came back just for that
Doom hater.
costume.
Doom hater.
But but he came back for the that costume to get the, because everyone was collecting, trying to do the key issue thing for a
Yeah.
while. and it's like, hey, let's get this thing, and then the heat kind of drowned out, but then like the symbiote itself comes back in the web, as you were saying. But yeah, I don't know. It's a thing where I don't know if there's anything else right now that could connect to the black suit to make the sale. So it's like, this is what's here. It's gonna make the money. It's like I have a, let's see, we show you like
But you know,
this is some of the stuff for Spider-Man, the top selling stuff, right? This is on the HA auction, and the top thing is Todd McFarlane. This thing with the Hulk,
great,
and
great, great.
you
But
got
hold
this.
on a second. Why is it not the cover? Is the cover art not? Why is that not selling for 250? Selling.
Because nobody's put that up for sale recently.
There we go.
I would think that would be a bigger thing
Don't
than.
say that. Don't
Well,
say that.
but you're answering your own. I mean, I understand what you're doing, but you're answering your own question and posing it. Okay,
Mhm.
if the last time that went up for sale, I mean, because I looked at comic art maybe from 3 or 4 years ago when we were at New York City Comic Con, and you had pages going for 250,000, 300,000, and I was really surprised at those numbers, especially since some of that stuff was just selling on the strength of the art, not because it was a first appearance or anything of that nature. These were just classic pages or really nice pages at the end of the day. So I already saw that the trends were going, okay, this is definitely going to get bigger. This right over here is totally different because again, a lot of times the art was selling on the strength of the style, the craftsmanship, all those things that came to it. This is strictly a first appearance. Okay, that's it. There's nothing else with it. And so now, if whoever owns that page, that cover has to say, oh, well, if this guy's getting 3 million, if this guy's getting 3 million for the first appearance, of the suit, and this is an interior page and it's only this, well, how much can I get for the cover where he finally appears or any of that other stuff? So we have to wait and see. He has to wait and see because at that time we don't know what that page sold for. We don't know what that page sold for before it came up for this auction because it might have sold for like 10 grand.
Right. I mean, I can kind of see the page. There can't be that many pages unless you're looking for the original cover. But would Marvel hold that?
No,
Mhm.
at that point, not
No,
then. No way.
no, that's no. Most of that stuff got turned over at that time period. Most of the art got turned back over to the artist, or if it was DC, DC would allow a certain number of pages to go back. So that stuff was in them with them, and they probably sold it. I'm pretty certain Zek did these pages. He was like, okay, new suit. This is a gimmick. What's it? What's going to happen with this? It'll ride for a little bit, and then it's going to be done. I'm pretty sure he never had a crystal ball that says, hey, in the year 2022, that's going to be worth $3 million. Don't sell it.
But again, I go back to the origins of Spider-Man. This is the first time he had a suit like that, and I would have said, "Hey, just hold on to it for the hell of it. Probably it's worth $50,000 if you hold on to it, but $50."
No, there's no way, no way. In the 80s, comic book art was dirt cheap. You could have got pages like you got some really nice, unless it was like a cover page, and even then it was really, I mean, it wasn't 250 grand. You could have got cover pages for a couple $100, interior pages for $10, $20. It was dirt cheap. It wasn't until I think it might be Burn. It might have been Burn where these guys were going and asking him to do pages, and then like, hey, we want like this dirt cheap price, and then they were going marking the thing up like 500% on eBay, and that of course changed the whole thing because then the artists weren't letting it go as cheaply, and then of course that made the trend where the prices were higher. But at that time, the idea that any of that stuff, it was comic book art. The last time before there was a push with comic book art was like Andy Warhol. It just wasn't worth anything at that point, and nobody was going to hold on to it thinking, well, one day this is going to be a big deal, with the exception of the artists who may have some attachment to it because they actually rendered it. It just wasn't there.
There goes.
Well,
Can you cover your ears? I want to say this.
no, before you go, no,
Burn,
before you go
burn
further.
things down.
What?
There goes burning things down.
No, that's not. How does that? Look at this. Ultimately, with the comic pros, outside of even to this day, outside of the image guys, like most of the time, even with the expensive prices, like I think Byrne before he left his house and his original house he had for years, left them with a piece of art. Said here, like they're just like here. This is I've been in this house for 20 years. if you want to keep the piece of art of mine in here, and they said for a while they had it up somewhere, but then it wasn't inclined to keep it in there, and then they would they would trade with their fellow artists, like that sort of thing. Outside of Walt Simonson, Terry Austin, and maybe even Joe Kubert, like the people that have a lot of their own stuff, like again Kelly Jones. A lot of people, the whole point was doing it and then like possibly selling it off or trading it with to get other things that you wanted, to get the artists that they grew up on, like Neil Adams, Kirby, that sort of stuff. Like they would get other things to get, not sitting around thinking about like the way baseball cards are, being like, I need to keep this because this is a key shot, the first shot of what's the name. My, it's like, I mean, what's the name? Zach had an art dealer before Byrne did. Like the Byrne's art dealer was Zach's art dealer, and that's how they met. Whereas, because I think Zach lived close to Byrne, and he brought his art dealer over to Byrne's house, and Byrne just had it in the basement, kind of just all around. And what's the name? The Byrne said to him, "I was looking for someone stupid. I mean, nice enough to organize this stuff for him," and he organized all the stuff. And Byrne gave him that Wolverine cover. It was like for doing all that work, he just gave it to him. Like, and that thing has come up twice on the Heritage Auction and selling. That dude sold it. I think he sold it. Yeah, he sold it, but it's still in the frame that what's his name? Is it Jim Warner? No, Jim Warden. He had that Wolverine cover, and it's still in that frame that he put it in because he used to have it in his office, and then he sold it, and then But at the same time, even the sellers back in the day, like when in the '90s, that art dealer came with some Byrne work from that meeting. He had a bunch of it. They were still like, it don't have any X-Men stuff, and they just had some Fantastic Four. So I bought a couple of pages. There's a last auction that was on this Heritage thing. Those things went from the tens of thousands. That's 22 pages. Like, imagine buying it for $50. So these artists didn't really go crazy over the market. Only a few, possibly Neil Adams kept some of his too, but they weren't really looking around to say, this is the first appearance of of Havoc in his costume. This is gonna be worth a lot of money. Put it in the back. Oh, this one, the first Sunfire. Got to keep this. I gotta have some way now. Right now, you look at this here. There's no rhyme or reason why outside of Todd being who he is, these two Todd covers being more than this Steve Ditko page here or this Kingpin right here. There's no outside of Todd McFarlane being a hot artist. But this is the range of the prices that they usually are for the highest stuff. And then you see it doesn't last that long. It starts to will it start to go down? Not yet. So yeah, this is a good range for books right now. Here's a Kirby thing with all the classic stuff. And that's recent. And that's not even 200,000. Yeah, but
none of these are first appearances. At least what I'm seeing. None of these, with the exception of that first cover appearance of Gwen Stacy. And that for me is the big thing this happened back in the 90s, and this is what these guys wanted. They wanted to treat comic books like baseball cards, and that's where the prices are coming from. Because even then, when these guys were buying art, the art that you got top dollar for was splash pages and cover pages. Those really big, punchy pages at the end of the day. But something with a whole bunch of panels on it, and especially if nothing was happening, or like, oh, here's Spider-Man right over here. It's like 1/6. That was considered, that was like the overspill, if you will. And the idea that right over there, as opposed to the cover or a major, like a splash page is coming in with that much money. Again, this could just be a one shot, but I don't know. My gut tells me no, because you got all these other pages out there, and they're in comparison to what that, I'm going to call it a panel. In comparison to what that panel did, those books are cheap, 250,000 as opposed to 3 million, and you have the wherewithal. Hey, buy it all. Just get all of it.
So I'm looking now. 252 on eBay is 200. Is five. Someone's asking for $555,000 for.
That'll change.
For a version of 500. No, sorry, I thought it was 500. It's only $555. Sorry about that.
Wait a minute, you talking about the original art?
No, the
No, no,
comic book, right?
no.
No, no, that's apples and oranges. You know, comic book. How many copies of that are out there? When you talk with
Exactly.
the art, there's only one page. There's only one page.
No, I
That's
get it.
it.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
You know, so it's not going to be the same where okay, it's going to drive comic book. It's going to drive necessarily going to drive comic book prices. That would be. I mean, that would be for me. That would just be crazy because it was like, why in the world would that drive the comic book price of this? These are two different elements. But in terms of that page, that art page, wherever that one is, I mean, you got to keep it. If you keep your finger to the, you keep your, your finger on the pulse of it. What you should see is Amazing Spider-Man 300 go up for sale. Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 252, Amazing Spider-Man 309, Amazing Spider-Man 316. You should see those pages come up for sale. And then anything, you see what it would do with anything Venom related. And if you keep seeing those same numbers, then yeah, game over.
And not that's the thing. It's not yet. That's the thing. We still have. That's the number one, and we got nothing. At least
You
Marvel
got to see,
side.
we got to see what the other pages go for. It could be a one-off
We're
or
seeing there's other things that are out here that are. I mean, you're saying first appearances. It has
it's
to
got to
be,
be
or else
it's got
that's
to be it's yeah it's got to be a first appearance because the other stuff like I said this was like 4 years ago and I saw Batman 251, that classic Joker cover, and that went up for like 250,000 if I remember correctly. And then there was a Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man cover by John Byrne, all black cover, that also went for close to the same amount. So that's when I saw, okay, these numbers are definitely trending. But those aren't first appearances. The burn cover isn't even a key issue. When somebody spends that much money and they're spending it on art like it's a baseball card, because that's the conjunction that you have right here. Okay, this is art and it's a first appearance. So now you got to look and see, okay, does that change? And you need to see Amazing Spider-Man 300 come up for auction because that's the book I would definitely keep an eye out for. And if that comes out, okay, if that comes out and it does numbers, that then you'll probably see Amazing 252 come out wherever the heck that book is. And if that comes out and does numbers, yeah, you're pretty much done.
So
um,
hold on a second. You're telling me what about this? Now let's go to something a little bit more modern. NFT, or the non-fungible token.
oh god.
The person
What
who
does that have
buys
to do with this?
Well, yeah. Why
No,
we?
no, no. Hold on.
we
No,
gotta
no, no,
we gotta
no.
square. We gotta get into
Wait. Scroll back up. Go to that GI Joe 21 because that's a first appearance. That's the first appearance of Storm Shadow, and let's see how much that went for
Only
right there.
300,000.
Okay, so
only.
that's 300. That's 300. No, no, that's within the realm of all the other pages. So it's the first appearance of Storm Shadow, and it's went for 300,000. If we
Let's
were
see.
to okay, so if you extrapolate, okay, if you extrapolate, okay, that means all right. If that were to come back up for sale, and now that these pages are being driven not just by being art, but also being first appearances of these particular characters, then you're looking at what
It
you
is.
you
It
know
is.
you're looking
It's
at
this month.
you're
It's
looking
like
at
this.
you're looking at a 200% increase.
No, this is sold. This was sold to like today, like this, the same time the other one was.
Right. They're all sold in the same
This
time.
is this
This
one
is so
sold not these paid not all this, but this one is
when did it
January
sell?
Right.
2022.
Right. So basically, they're saying it's Spider-Man is worth 10 times that amount. That's what
Yes.
they're saying.
Well, no,
It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense.
you got the because again you got the drive for Spider-Man because of the movie.
He's more popular overall. I'm going back to what you said before in the past.
Definitely more popular
He's
movie
the
and such.
gateway comic.
But you got to start. But that would change. I'm saying that book already sold. Not a lot of effect. But I said if it affects all of the art, where you're going after the art with the same type of intention, where this is also a first. This is not just a piece. This is not just a great piece of art, but it's also the art that contains the first appearance and so on and so forth. And then yeah, that changes the whole dynamic. And that's not something you can do with it's not something you could do with other types of art. You get a Picasso, you get it for the art, not because well, in this Picasso, it's the first appearance of Iron Man. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing to be like trying to change this like the same way they tried to do with the actual quality of the condition of the art. That's what they originally were going to, saying, trying to figure a way to get your price down so they could put their price higher. Say, hey, look at this. This book
We're trying
is
to treat it.
this page is yes. I think you said I'll just do the cut corner thing. Why are these corners are cut? It should be a perfect page. Like, no, how do you think it gets to the printer? It gets to the engraving so it can be printed and that sort of thing. So it's a thing where they
Come
will
over.
kind of add in these things that really don't work as far as as far
Oh,
as
they go, hey,
actual.
look,
So
hey, there's a coffee stain. There's a coffee stain on the art. That's got to bring down the pay. Dude,
or
if
bring
you
it
want
up
to,
because it's unique.
you just tell them, look, go buy another one. Oh yeah, this is the only one. This is it.
So getting
This
back to the whole thing with NFT now. So
But
no, no. We're not doing
if
NFTs. That's
we
not
doing
that has no
NFTs because
no. That
basically
has no
Marvel,
bearing. That has no bearing on what we're talking about.
I'm saying it does because now whoever owns that page theoretically can make that into an NFT if they wanted to.
No, they can't.
Why not?
They own the art. They don't own the. They have no trademark on the actual page. They just own the art. They can't turn that into an NFT.
Well, I mean, I think you're right in the sense that I think Marvel and DC, I saw something a while back where they were saying the artists um, make their characters into NFTs, because they own the characters.
No,
And of
because
course, they're going to be the ones selling it themselves. I think during the
I
fandom,
owned a piece. I owned a piece of art years ago that that was made into a page for a comic.
right?
The guy had made the art, okay, and he said, okay, this was not going to appear, but then they changed their mind and it appeared on this comic. It was a French comic. So how it worked was that if anybody else wanted, because of the way it worked out, anybody else wanted to duplicate that or replicate that, they had to get my consent because I owned it at that particular time. That was it, because that was never there was never any published agreement with that because it never came out. But this, you can't do it. You can't NFT this. NFTs don't work. I mean, I don't know why people pay for that stuff anyway, but it just doesn't work that way.
People are paying for land in the metaverse, my friend. Thousands and thousands of dollars. There's actually real estate companies based in the metaverse. So
yeah, because well, what is it? What can I say? Every once in a while, people got to buy tulips. Every once in a while.
That's what I thought about cryptocurrency, but it's been going up and up and down.
No, it doesn't matter if it goes. I mean, again, the fact that it has some viability for certain reasons, okay. But to throw some of these people who are throwing retirement savings in the cryptocurrency say, yeah, don't worry, Mildred, we're going to make it big. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that. If you,
yeah.
Definitely, if you're still running drugs, that's cryptocurrency is where you need to be.
Okay, I think we're off base there. So hey, anything else, guys? About
for those of you, I did hear. I know. Remember, we said this off camera. For those of you looking at this and saying, "Hey, this is going to be like a Mark McGuire moment," with Todd McFarlane and the $3 million baseball, you have to remember the fundamentals are different. Okay, the fundamentals are different. This is not baseball, even though people want to make this into like the card market. It's not baseball. There is not somebody else who's going to come and say that the heck with your creatine. I'm going to use real steroids, and I'm hitting 70. I'm going to hit 72 home runs this year, and I'm going to knock your 66 out of the mark. There's only one piece of this art. That's it. Okay, there is nobody. Well, I'm going to draw a new one. Mike Zeck can't come out. I'm going to draw a better piece, and somehow it takes it out. This is it. Right. So those fundamentals don't necessarily apply here. And I don't want to break anybody's heart, but yeah, I think it's done, dudes. I think it's done. If you want to get some art, go get it.
Well,
go get it.
I would only have to chime in. You can do something like that, which is stuff like was recently, not recent, but in the last 5-10 years, like the first Wolverine page, you'd expect that to go up those numbers. But the market is now working that it has this gradual and these jumps in prices, like going to the 3 million, whoever this person is who bought it, that is not getting that is not going to the next, like most of the jumps that they've had going from 300,000 to 600,000, going to 3 mil, you can't expect it to go up even more. You can say, well, we're looking at the pattern, and it's the same pattern that we've watched of the success of Marvel, any of this stuff. Even though it's original art, you're looking to resell, and you're gonna be sitting that in your closet for a number of years till you get to the 4 and 5, or maybe you think possibly if a Spider-Man movie comes out, someone will be crazy enough, but you're not gonna. That's the thing, having another frenzy to try to sell this thing at the price, because they're not just buying it for
I
saying,
don't
they're
know.
buying it to make their money back and well over it. Hence I think one of those books, the pages I showed yesterday, they're asking for like 4 times, but they're not getting it. They're still asked someone to make an offer, which is just sitting there, and no one's saying, "Hey, things are going up. I need to jump on this thing," and they're not doing it yet. So that's one of the things that's happened. We had the first thing. We have that first that definitely drove. It's Ed Hannigan um, cover, who's done 3 million way better covers than that GI Joe cover. So the only thing you could say is the Storm Shadow thing, but it didn't push it into the stratosphere. It just put it to get some notice. But so they're out there. But this, I feel like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. They're out there and they're thinking about it, but there's somebody else out there that's got more money than any of the sellers that we know, that are buyers and sellers that we know, that are buying stuff that are well beyond the Rob Liefeld and any of the like that are buying and trading stuff.
The I mean the obvious, man, because I've been just watching these. I've been watching these trends for the last 3 or 4 years, and I was telling guys this before, and the guys, well, especially with the comic guys, they would poo-poo the whole thing. But these are '90s comic sellers, and they're still very much affected by what happened in the '90s, and they're waiting for the bottom to drop out any day. And I was telling them, look, it's a different situation, so on and so forth. I never thought it would get to the point where you would look at the art and have that. I mean, for me, it's like a single bead of sweat is going down my face. There were stuff I was hoping to get at one point. And I'm like, well, that I'm looking at it now, and it looks like, at least for me, the way I feel is like that ship has sailed. Looking at this, because again, this isn't even a cover page or a splash, which is the stuff that would have definitely commanded that type of money. And then the art market for comics, if you look at I mean, these are what I call like the minor collectibles as opposed to the major collectibles. Minor collectibles, baseball cards, which might be the top of the minors, no pun intended, and comics, toys, like Matchbox cars, that type of stuff. And then you get to the majors where you have like European art, Rolls Royce cars, that sort of stuff. So two different things, but you have guys who will go from that art market and say, look, I've got money, but I don't want to throw all of my money into this. And they definitely buy the stuff. Either, you have guys who are aficionados who are going to appreciate it, but they also want to buy something that they believe is going to appreciate in value. And if if they've had it 5 years or 10 years and they believe they've had it long enough and they think they can get some money for it, they will sell it. It's just part of being a collector at the end of the day. So, even if these guys are stepping in and saying, hey, I'm going to spend this much money, I have to believe that they're smart enough to realize you can't go from 3 to 6 in a year. Okay. And if it does go from 3 to 6 in a year, then all the conventional wisdom is out of it. But I would expect, I mean, this was no different than me when I watched Nicolas Cage bought Action Comics #1, and he held on to it for, I believe, between 5 to 10 years, and he ended up turning it over, made a decent profit over it. These are not things that I expect people to hold on to for forever. They'll hold on to it for a period of time, and then it's just going to go back. It'll go back into the market. I just don't know if the comic. Well, I mean, if this can go for 3 mil, then and it happens again, it means that the comic book art market is seriously undervalued, and you get a big run on the whole thing. But we'll see.
But wait, I gotta reel you back here, because Spider-Man tends to be at the top, right? If we're talking about like the major characters, Spider-Man will be at the top. So that's not indicative of something like like GI Joe, like we're saying, we're saying Spider-Man's art, this unique art with the Venom and the black suit.
No, that's Todd McFarlane. That's Todd
Sometimes,
McFarlane.
so I don't think
that's Todd.
I don't think
It's not just Todd. Todd has 2 books, two covers, and a bunch of issues before that. And he also has, and then you have all the X-Men that would be considered the top. it's not. I don't think
I think
it's.
it's going to break. I think it's going to shake out to a much more, the ones that are the premier, and then they're going to be a more.
I just don't know, man.
That's what I
I
think.
really don't. I mean, because that's always what people say. And then I look and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to look at the fundamentals of this whole thing. And I'm like, all right, great. It goes for this really large price. And then the conventional wisdom is always, yeah, it'll come back down. And it may come back down. But I always look, it went for that price. It went for that price. And this is not a cover page. This is not a splash page. It's already defined conventional wisdom. And then in order for it to happen, all you need are sellers who refuse to sell for less than what they want. That's all you need. And that's not very hard to get. If these guys come out and they say, look, I want this price and I'm not selling it for less, well then, hey, that changes the dynamic, and then you get people who are willing to pay it. It's not very hard. It's just not very hard to happen. So, this right over here, if this was a cover page, okay. Or splash page, okay. It's a 60, what is it? This is like a full panel. This is a full panel on a page at the end of the day. So when I look at the whole thing, I'm taking all of that into account. I'm not trying to poo-poo anything or tell people this is the new normal, but I am trying to take everything into account, and trying to make a final determination. And that final determination is you've got to keep your eyes, out to see if they try to sell something else Spider-Man Venom related in the same fashion. And if it goes for money, then yeah, you've got a market that is undervalued. And then what usually happens is that after Spider-Man, okay, they'll say, well, look, if I can get some money for Spider-Man, what about these other guys?
But they can't match up. They're
It's
not.
not.
It's not the
It's,
same.
it's not. It's definitely not undervalued. There's no way we can say that the comic market is undervalued. There's no.
$3 million says
That's
it's
one
undervalued.
book. That's one
That's
book.
Spider-Man. That's Spider-Man.
No, not Spider-Man. It's one. That's the thing. It's one page in comparison to.
It's a panel.
No, I'm saying that page went for that. You can say it's a panel, but it's like when you look at what's going on in that market, like most of the classics, in that cell, most of the stuff went in the tens of thousands, right?
Mm-hmm.
For stuff that's all random. Eric Larson, John Romita, Alex Ross. It's all random stuff. No rhyme. A bunch of Spider-Mans in there, well under that, and saying, well, that's what kind of gets people into the trouble, saying, well, this Neil Adams page was in the same lot, but they just needed to kind of sell it in a way that it could price it at 3 million. Like, no, the top stuff goes in the hundreds of thousands, and the stuff that's has some good time in the 80s, 90s, possibly in the aughts, as they say, is in the tens of thousands. But right now, tens of thousands is decent prices. That's not bad. And then for your classic X-Men or Todd McFarlane or something that's really old and worth something like the stuff we saw, yeah, hundreds of thousands. But then saying, nope, now we gotta see, because we have something that's been back and forth on the market, which is like Wolverine's page. So that one should get to $1 million if matching that. But that's not going to be comparable to, say, an Alex Ross page saying it might be worth $1 million. But like saying that we have to no, the prices are well beyond what it is, and saying that there's it's the same thing. I would compare it to comic buyers to say, if someone bought this, there's got to be some other people that are ready to buy at this price, or we'll find them by putting these prices up here and auctioning these things off at that. I think as of right now, the thing is already ridiculous. It's already above and beyond what
it's ridiculous until somebody does it again.
That's the thing. You had stuff in there that should have well been. You had the G.I. Joe, you had the Burn, but you don't have a classic thing of saying, hey, this is the first appearance of Captain Marvel or something like that, or this is the first appearance of this person.
In order for that to bear out, whoever bought G.I. Joe 21 would have to think like me and say, hey, this one over here is a first appearance. I'm going to put this up for double the price and see if I can get it. And then if they get it, okay, that would be, that's pretty much where you're at. The person who's, whatever's driving that at that time, okay, it was not for G.I. Joe with Storm Shadow, and the way that they're actually going after the art is not necessarily the way that they were going after this particular panel. Again, that's why I want to see if you see some of the other stuff coming out, and you see it doing similar numbers, okay, if you see it doing similar numbers, then yeah, you got a seismic shift at the end of the day. So I want to wait and see exactly how it goes. And then if it goes for these types of pages with Spider-Man, then yeah, I mean, this is the same thing I saw. This is the same thing I saw with comics, because for years it was the only things that have value are the first appearances and the variant covers and the era and this, that, and the other, until guys said, hey, wait a second. This first appearance is ridiculously expensive. There's a second appearance that's just as rare as the first appearance. I'm going to actually put some money into that. And then just like that, the second appearance somehow went from being trash to having value. It was like Wolverine, Hulk 181, and that was the big book, and everybody kind of just thumbed their nose at 180, even though that in itself would make a show. Until finally somebody said, "Hey, wait a second, this is actually rarer than this one over here," and so on and so forth. This actually has value. It's not going to do 181 numbers, but it actually did some but it actually does have some value, and it makes it so that type of shift that it comes down at the end of the day. So I do want to see it, because I've heard a lot of this stuff is pertaining to comics. I already know the comic book market in terms of art was something where again, this was like great stuff at the end of the day, and had no market. Okay, and had no market until maybe like 20 years ago. Otherwise, it was dirt cheap. You could what is it? You could spin a wheel and you get a page.
Yeah, I don't think you guys are necessarily disagreeing with one another. I think you guys are basically complementing your arguments. I think that both what you guys are saying there. I mean, look, the whole thing with the Storm Shadow one. I think 300,000 we saw. I think that seems to be the full price. It's not going to hit the same thing as that. Would that have gotten that price before in the past? Not necessarily. And I think it's probably at the max price it's going to get, at least for the time being. And the Spider-Man being, because of Spider-Man and all these different and Venom, you get that. And I see what you're saying. You have someone discovered, hey, this thing is even rarer than something else. And I think you're going to continue to find these different discoveries going on. And I guarantee you have people who like burn stuff and are going to look for stuff and skim through some of the stuff and say, hey, this is really a rare burn thing that he did, and probably come up, and the value of that's going to skyrocket. The value of anything is based on what people want to pay in the end. So if you're a Burn fan, you're going to pay more for Burn stuff than you would pay for something else, because you're going to value it more, right?
No,
And that's
it's
just
just perceived,
whether it's reasonable or unreasonable.
It's perceived as rare, saying that this comparing between Byrne and Austin. That's basically the idea that's behind it. They're saying, all right, this is when, or if this is when it was good, or this is the classic X-Men stuff. Dave Cockrum stuff sells pretty decently, not as much as that, but you put it to that point, and a couple of pages of the X-Men has gone back and forth. It hasn't jumped any further. This is from an auction, like saying, well, we should put the auction at $1 million, and then you're sitting around there like that scene in Mahogany where you're dancing around and you're not getting those prices. Remember with what's that guy with Anthony Perkins, when she was trying to show off her new thing and they were trashing it. They're like, that ain't worth it. That's trash. It's not going to be there. You didn't see Mahogany? Oh my goodness. Anyway,
goes back like what, 100 years?
Not 100 years, but anyway. But the thing is like this: we have this thing in comics where we've seen this happen, and we keep saying, "Oh, let's not look the Trojan horse, and let's look the Trojan horse in the mouth. It's not going to get us. It's not going to get us." And it's like, well, there is a clear difference, that it is a rarity to it, but at the same time, it's a it's a tough sort of market to sort of say, well, there's going to be people playing around here, and we've seen the key people online, and they're not they lucked out and bought a lot of stuff when they were younger, and now they're selling to buy new pieces. Like, that's basically what the market is. It's somebody who's taking like you can see on the Heritage thing, most of the time people are asking double what it last was. So if you have a whole page they're asking for that's like 90,000, they're asking for 180,000. But that's a make an offer which they're not getting. So it's sitting there until you go for an auction where you can either get that double price, which most of the time they do, or you can get a different price. So my thing is that this thing of trying to put it up for a new thing and say, here we got this classic thing that's one of one, and we got to it's starting at $1 million, and this is like The way I got to sell 3 or 4 or 5 pages to get this Wolverine thing. At the same time, it's not a movie out, so I don't. I mean, it's only will be these prices are never going to go down too much, but they're kind of like the
Could you
way it
imagine?
was inflating the market. This is the thing that can happen, inflating a market that hasn't gone down. It isn't like this thing has struggled. It's only gone up. So
Yeah.
inflating it even more doesn't help it. It's only just says these people that are trading comic books are just playing in their own market where they're selling books to buy things, selling pages to buy other
You
pages.
thought you think a comic book guy bought that page?
No, but I'm saying the market is still these people that are able to buy for the hundreds of thousands. That's the market. Whoever bought this is somewhere, I don't know what this
Could
person
be a ball
is.
player. It could be a stockbroker. It can be a hedge fund guy.
Anytime I see numbers like that, that's somebody from outside coming in saying, "No, there's something going on over here, and I want in on it." That was like it was similar to me with comics, where I mean, literally, you'd have a comic and it'd be up for like $20, and these guys wanted to haggle and try to start at $4 and want to do the dance of the seven veils with you, that type of nonsense. Waste of time. And then it changed when I started putting books up for like $50, and guys were like, "Okay." And there was no haggling, and I was like, "Okay." And it kept happening, and then I realized, all right, there's other people in here, not just not the guys who I'm used to dealing with, and that definitely changed. That definitely changed how sales were going. So I'm thinking it's similar to that, because I can't imagine any of these guys who are the regulars, who are like the 250,000 guys, or the guys looking at the double price. They're like, "Yeah, maybe one of these days, but not today." And then that happens. That's something totally, that's something totally different, which could, again, I'm very intrigued by it, and I do want to see more. I want to see something else, because if it was something like Wolverine, oh goodness, could you imagine? Because I told somebody, if you got X-Men comics, those classic X-Men comics, and if you've got classic Fantastic Four comics, don't sell them anytime soon. You got to hold that stuff, because those guys are making their appearance in the Marvel universe and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and whatever they were valued before, put a lot more definitely put an extra zero at it after it's over, by the time they make their appearance. But I mean, Wolverine, like that art, at the end of the day, if it was to follow this same trend, sweet grace, that would be some stuff. But I would be holding. I mean, if I was one of those guys and I had those pages, I would just be holding on, waiting at this point. But there's no way somebody doesn't see that number, because I mean, I thought it was the same thing with Amazing Fantasy 15 when it went for 3.6 million, and within like 3 or 4 months, Action Comics 1 comes back out again and sells, and outsells it by almost $1 million. And Amazing Fantasy 15 was a CGC graded 9.6. So somebody else was like, "Well, hell, the hell with that. I got this one." And they're both doing like really high numbers at the end of the day, seeing one drive the other. I don't know. It's just I really do want to see. I do want to see more. It's I don't know. My gut is telling me one thing, but I do want to see more.
Okay, cool. Anything else anybody wants to say? We're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah, you can wrap it up.
Other than Jim Lee has a 4-part cover art that
You said wrap it up, and now you're going into this
as
other
excellent.
thing.
I just want to
That's
say
four.
that.
Whoa! That's 4 parts. That's 4 times 3. That's $12 million.
See, that's the thing that don't make no sense.
Which was done in a private auction. But hey, all right. Hey, anybody interested in this? Subscribe. Give us a thumb up, comment.
If you got comments, you've got some insight, we want to hear about it. I definitely want to hear about it. Put those comments in.
If you agree.
Agree or disagree. I
With
want to see.
me.
I want to hear.
With me, you can agree. You can disagree with the others. Spirac.
Out.
Out.